Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki Jai, Sankirtan Yajna ki Jai.
Natakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Seko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Mathura Dham ki Jai. Namadvip Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mai ki Jai. Jamuna Mai ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Go to Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, Hare Krishna. This is a little awkward. I can't. Well, who was fixing this? Okay, we're on Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 43 and 44. So, what's on the board there? 44. All right, so I'll read 43 and then we'll do the other. Sa eṣaḥ adhyāsta āsanam pārthivocitam pitāmahenopanyastaṁ rājñāraṇyaṁ vivikṣatā. Okay, text 44. Āste dhunā rājā-ṛṣiḥ kauravendra-śriyollasan gajāhvaye mahā-bhāgaś cakravartī bṛhac-chravāḥ āste dhunā rājā-ṛṣiḥ kauravendra-śriyollasan gajāhvaye mahā-bhāgaś cakravartī bṛhat-śravāḥ āste dhunā rājā-ṛṣiḥ kauravendra-śriyollasan gajāhvaye mahā-bhāgaś cakravartī bṛhat-śravāḥ āste dhunā rājā-ṛṣiḥ kauravendra-śriyollasan gajāhvaye mahā-bhāgaś cakravartī bṛhat-śravāḥ. Ladies, Saha, he, eṣaḥ, this, etarhy, at the present, adhyāste, is ruling over, āsanam, the throne, pārthiva-ucitam, just befitting a king, pitāmahenopanyastaṁ, by the grandfather, upanyastaṁ, being handed over, rājñāraṇyaṁ, by the king, āraṇyaṁ, forest, vivikṣatā, desiring, āste, there, dhunā, at present, sā, that, rāja-ṛṣiḥ, the sage amongst the kings, kaurava-indra, the chief amongst the Kuru kings, śriyollasan, glories, ulasan, spreading, gajāhvaye, in Hastinapura, mahā-bhāgaḥ, the most fortunate, cakravartī, the emperor, bṛhat-śravāḥ, highly famous. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The most fortunate emperor, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. The most fortunate emperor, you can repeat, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. Purport. This is really not purport. Can you hear this? Can somebody adjust this microphone, please? Not too close. Hare Krishna. All right, try that. Yeah. Somebody's going to have to devise some kind of a means of putting the Bhagavatam where it can be read. All right, that'll do. That's good. Finish. Purport. The prolonged sacrificial ceremonies undertaken by the sages of Naimisharanya were begun shortly after the demise of Mahārāja Parīkṣit. The sacrifice was to continue for 1,000 years, and it is understood that in the beginning some of the contemporaries of Baladev, the elder brother of Lord Krishna, also visited the sacrificial place. According to some authorities, the present tense is also used to indicate the nearest margin of time from the past. In that sense, the present tense is applied to the reign of Mahārāja Parīkṣit here. For a continuous fact also, the present tense can be used. The principles of Mahārāja Parīkṣit can be still continued. and human society can still be improved if there is a determination by the authorities. We can still purge out from the state all the activities of immorality introduced by the personality of Kali if we are determined to take action like Mahārāja Parīkṣit. He allotted some place for Kali, but in fact Kali could not find such places in the world at all, because Mahārāja Parīkṣit was strictly vigilant to see that there were no places for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. Modern administrators want to banish corruption from the state, but fools as they are, they do not know how to do it. They want to issue licenses for gambling houses, wine, and other intoxicating drug houses, brothels, hotel prostitution, and cinema houses, and falsity in every dealing, even in their own. And they want at the same time to drive out corruption from the state. They want the kingdom of God without God consciousness. How can it be possible to adjust two contradictory matters? If we want to drive out corruption from the state, we must first of all organize society to accept the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And to make the condition favorable, we must close all places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. These are some of the practical lessons from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Translation. The most fortunate Emperor Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. So, Prabhupada's speaking very strongly here about the lack of qualification of modern day leadership. We can see that, practically speaking, 100%, they're all very sinful personalities, and because they're sinful, then naturally the population that they govern over becomes sinful as well. So this is a great problem. Kali Yuga is on us in no mean way. We can see nowadays, now every day there's news about the fighting in Europe. Somebody, for his own aggrandizement, declares war on some neighboring state. Thousands of young men are sent to the killing fields, and all for what? Just to satisfy somebody's pride. So there are principles which anybody can follow. It's mentioned in cleanliness, austerity, truthfulness. So these principles, these gird the activities of a progressive human society. If you have this kind of standard, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, practically speaking, you're in the mode of goodness. And from that position, you can move into transcendental life. The Varnashram system is aimed at doing that. It's a system of governance more than anything else. You've got the position of the kings of Vedic times. You see that they were ruling over every aspect of their kingdom. I mentioned the other day that when Lord Ram returned from the forest from Lanka and came to the gateway of Ayodhya, he refused to enter it until they'd made sure that there was not one single person in the city that was not following Varnashram. He said, if there's even one person who's not following it, I won't enter, I'll go back to the forest. So they checked everything, of course, and made sure that it was, in fact, up to the proper standards. Varnashram means human life. If you go below that, then it means animal life. Yeah. So this is unfortunately the situation nowadays. People are living like animals, or even worse. Even the animals don't organize or manufacture ways and means of killing their own children within the womb. There may be some animals that, out of impulse, of course, they may kill their own baby. Tigers, lions, things like this. But human beings, it's most abominable that they're killing so many innocent population for what? So that they can have more sense gratification, that's all. In America, it seems like they're about to rescind this Roe versus Wade, the original legal ruling that it was okay to kill babies in the womb, abortion. That was in 1973. Now they say that they're about to break that ruling and ban abortion. As soon as that news was leaked out, it's not yet been passed, but somebody deliberately leaked it out to the general population that very shortly your government's going to stop you from killing your own babies. So now they're having mass protests in different cities. This is my body, I'll dictate what I do with my body. This is the women going marching. Yes, I should have the right to murder my own child, infanticide. And the state is approving. So in that kind of a situation, what hope is there? It's not human life. It's not something that any human being could even contemplate, killing a small baby. And what to speak about what they're doing with the cows, the bulls, and so many other lesser animals. It's a tragedy. Human society has never probably, at least in recent history, has never been as abominably situated as it is now. So what we need is good leadership. Everybody knows it. So on the one hand, they're allowing so many sinful activities, and on the other hand, another group, like in America, they're accusing each other of cheating, of using their positions to fill their own pockets. Now you have the President of the United States, Mr. Biden. So his son, he's been accused of stealing millions and millions of dollars by dealing with commodities with other countries that are supposed to be at war, or not at war exactly, but in conflict with their own states. So now they're trying to bring a case against him. But if he gets caught, if he's brought to the court, this is the son of the president, then that will of course blacken the name of the president, and practically speaking he'll be unable to function in that role anymore. Of course, apart from that, Mr. Biden is suffering from various illnesses which they won't admit to, such as dementia. He gives a speech, he forgets what he's doing, what he's saying, what the point of what his speech was all about. He has his aides standing nearby just to remind him what was the last thing that he said, so that he can pick it up again and speak. So the man can hardly put two words together, and he's supposed to be the president of the most powerful country in the world. So, because they're saying that we'll get rid of him, but then somebody else will come. It's not that by moving one out, then somebody else will come in who does a better job, because they're all in on it together. Similarly, there's another example like in Russia in the 1990s. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, then the man who replaced them, Boris Yeltsin, he got together a few of his cronies and they systematically raped the economy of Russia, and it gave rise to what they call the oligarchs. The personalities, like there's some Russian oligarchs, they say that half of London actually belongs to Russians. They've stolen literally billions of dollars from the economy in Russia and reinvested that in England and other places. So as soon as you get rid of one, another one comes along, and all havoc there, and the poor individual citizen is robbed by way of taxation. They're treated very falsely. There's practically no truth anywhere. So these are all unfortunate signs of Kali Yuga. But Prabhupada says here that it can still be changed. Because the Kuru dynasty, the reason why that's mentioned, that's like for the immediate past, is because the Jati Dharma, or the standards of living human life, are passed on from one generation to another. This is the idea. So by mentioning that Parīkṣit Maharaj is from the Kuru dynasty, then it means that, it says here, due to he has great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. So there's a tradition that they live up to, a standard, and if that standard is violated, then they remove them. Just now in England, they're having problems with one of the Queen's sons. So the Queen herself, now she's 96 or something, they're having a platinum jubilee celebrations. She's been ruling now for over 70 years. Prabhupada actually apparently said one time she's the most pious woman in the world because she's so rich. So they calculated the wealth of the royal family to be approximately $35 trillion. You can't even conceive of how much money that is. Somebody made some estimation. Who knows how true it is? But that's their position. They're born into a family. They don't know what any idea of ruling is, nor do they have any power to rule. They were removed actually many centuries ago, the kings, and they were replaced by parliament and so-called democracy. But still they keep them up as a figurehead. People like her. She's a very pious lady, no doubt. But the rest of the family threatened to bring down the whole dynasty. This one son has been accused of procuring underage girls for sex. So like that, that's the unfortunate situation. The lazy, good-for-nothing people. They can do no good to anybody practically. Even the Queen is the head of the Church of England. So they go every Sunday, they offer their prayers, whatever it may be, and that's it. But she's the head of the whole church. And all the people that she's in charge of, the priests, the bishops, they're all reporting to her. What does she know about religion? What does she know about the nature of the soul and the destination of the soul? They know nothing. It's just simply some show. It brings in a lot of money. As long as the royal family tours around, people come and they raise funds for various activities. So as long as they're earning a living, then nobody wants to disturb them. But the fact is that none of them are actually fit. Neither the so-called democracy, demon crazy, as Prabhupada used to say, nor the royalty. There are no fit people on the planet right now who can actually lead human society to peace and prosperity. They don't know what it is. So they're always fighting. Bring in one man, kick out the other one. He lasts for 3 or 4 years. They rule so badly they have to be thrown out. New elections. So this is a very, very unfortunate situation for human society. Practically speaking, people are not human. Less than animals. Prabhupada did say that anybody who's not within the varnashram system, they're not human beings. So human life begins with the recognition of the soul that we are. I mean, it begins with recognizing what we really are. We are spirit souls. We are part and parcel of the supreme spiritual whole. The aim of life is very clearly chalked out for going back home, back to Godhead. This is the real business of human life. There's a proper aim of life, to educate people as to the truth. So at least it says here that truth is the only leg of religion that's left now in Kali Yuga, and even that is fading. But there's some truth, so therefore we're still able to do a little preaching. I think that was one of the first things that I appreciated about Srila Prabhupada. I was just talking the other day about, somebody asked me, how did you join and become a devotee? And what was the particular quality of Srila Prabhupada that I respected the most? And I think really it was just the fact that Prabhupada was totally honest. Whatever Prabhupada said, you could depend on that being completely true. So that's the one characteristic in Kali Yuga that we can still get some benefit from, is truthfulness. Yes, Prabhupada was completely true. He was very straightforward, as we've read in this purport here. Of course, those who are not, who don't adhere to truth, they don't like to hear these words. Who knows what will happen in the future? Some crazy Kali Yuga politician may read these words. Oh, just he's criticizing my leadership, arrest him, throw him in jail. They do this. They don't like the truth to come out. So Srila Prabhupada, he's standing on the platform of truth. That's the one thing in Kali Yuga that can still have some good effect. So Prabhupada tried to create a society, ISKCON, whereby we could make genuine progress. We could practice at least this one principle of truthfulness. That means that as the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, you live or adhere by the principles that are found there, then you're standing on the truth. Yeah, and by being truthful, you come to the ultimate truth. We talk about, the search for truth. What is that truth? That truth means understanding what your original nature is, what your relationship is with the supreme spiritual nature, and work towards that end. That's truth. But people don't like that. They don't like to hear something true because it's against what they perceive to be their own personal interest. So we're afflicted in many ways in Kali Yuga by people who just cannot tell the truth, what to speak about anything else. They think that you've gone mad if you tell them that you shouldn't take intoxicants. I mean, it seems obvious to somebody that doesn't take it, but to those who, it's like I was brought up in England. So practically speaking, every city, there's at least a dozen public houses, they call public houses. Means, where they go and get drunk every weekend after a horrible week's work, slaving away. Then they go and they get drunk at the weekends, and that's their enjoyment. So intoxication, one of our devotees in 1974, Sabhabati Prabhu, he wrote to Srila Prabhupada for permission to start up the In God We Trust political party in Australia. So he ran for some lower level, what do they call it, House of Representatives, the lawmakers. So there was the 4-year recurrent voting process. So he put himself up as a candidate. Prabhupada approved it, and that was the platform that he was working on, platform of truth. And another platform, you have to have 3 or 4 principles that you stand for, and then you try and get people to vote for you. So Sabhabadi said that one of the main principles was that they said if you get elected, then what will be the first thing that you'll do? So he said, I'll close down the bar. He said, how can you rule a country when you're intoxicated? So the papers, they appreciated that. Well, he'll close down the bar, and the politicians will have to be sober in order to rule the country. Of course, he didn't get very many votes, but still, I think he got something like 650 votes out of many thousands of people that were voting. But Prabhupada appreciated that. It didn't discourage him. He said, yes, that means for each person that voted for the In God We Trust party, that's a step closer towards Krishna. Krishna will appreciate that. So our job ahead of us is not going to be easy, we hope. ISKCON is the nucleus or the beginning point of the reversal back to truth, back to sobriety, back to cleanliness, and these good qualities that are a must if you want to get the maximum benefit from your human form of life. So we're not, right now we're kind of, at least this is my own personal observation, is that we're having a kind of a hiatus at the moment. Things are not too intense. We can travel to most places in the world as devotees and begin temples there and teach people Krishna consciousness. How long that will last, who knows? Yeah, just like the Russians now, they decided this one, because one man is a little crazy, Putin. He wants to somehow or another get back all the land and possessions that were under the control of the Soviet Union before 1990. After it collapsed, then it was a free-for-all. So he wants to take everything back. They've broken up into separate states, just like the USSR. They were in control of all the Eastern European countries, the Baltic states, etc. Now they have their own so-called sovereignty. So this one man comes along and decides he wants to take it all back. So immediately they start a war. In the last 3 or 4 months, they say that at least 40,000 young men have been killed. This is going on right now. They've bombed several cities completely flat. They have no strategic value. They have no value in terms of manufacturing armaments or anything like that. Just simply he's going to destroy every city until they're pummeled into submission. So these are all demons. This is the present condition. We're being run by demons. They can do whatever they like. Putin and his friends are said to have made fortunes for themselves, at least several $billion each in their back pockets. So that way then simply everybody working like mudhas, working very hard for practically very little gain. The quality of life is very poor, but still they continue robbing the citizens. So these are some of the unfortunate things the Bhagavatam is predicting. And if you want to take out real advantage of your human form, then you have no other choice but to change the government. But we don't want to change the government as it's changing now, with all these anomalies. What we need are leaders who are pure in heart, who are truthful, who have the genuine concern for the citizens living. So mahā-bhāgaḥ, it's mentioned here, the most fortunate. So this, you'll find this term sometimes in the Bhagavatam. Those who are mahā-bhāgaḥ, or the Bhagavatam. Bhaga means wealthy. So those who are mahā-bhāgaḥ, they're the most fortunate of people. So with that good fortune, we want to spread as much as possible. Because for a devotee, wherever we live, whatever we may do, I say we, I don't mean considering myself to be on that platform, but personalities like Srila Prabhupada, they can come and they can actually literally change the course of human society. Just one man can do that. Prabhupada used to say, I'm just one man, you can see what has been done for the human society. So take up this process of Krishna consciousness, perform the yajna for this age. There are no other yajnas to be performed. There's no other activities that need to be done except the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That one mantra is enough to reverse the unfortunate condition of human society. So therefore Prabhupada, right from the very beginning, he stressed only on this: distribution of prasadam and chanting of the holy names. That's powerful enough that all of these horrible things that are happening can be stopped. So gradually people will start to wake up. The consciousness will become a little clear from these spiritual activities, and we may see this 10,000 year period. It's actually already started, actually. Prabhupada said that from the time of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, now for 10,000 years, there'll be reasonable peace and happiness and spiritual progress. After that, finished. After that, you've got no hope. Become cats and dogs. So this is the, what do they call it, when the soldiers attack somewhere? There's, there's a word for it. The forerunner, if you like. This ISKCON movement is the forerunner towards the re-establishment of the Varnashram system and proper governance. So we'll see how that works out. But Prabhupada did tell us that we have to establish the Varnashram system, because otherwise there's no hope for anybody. So I'm going to finish at this point. Does anybody have any questions or comments to add to that? Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for nice class. Prabhuji, my query is that, as you told that, and Srila Prabhupada told also, that without varnashram there is no life, it is animal life. So how we can understand that Mayapur being Dham? So how we are practicing here, the devotees are practicing here.
How can we understand what? How can we understand?
How we can understand that at Mayapur, the devotees are practicing varnashram, 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. How we can understand that?
Well, I can't understand it because we're not doing it. Let's be frank. We're not, just because we're in Mayapur doesn't mean that we're in the Varnashram system. Because the process of devotional service is beyond the Varnashram. Varnashram leads us up to the transcendental platform. So theoretically, if we do follow the 4 regulative principles and we chant according to the direction of our predecessor acharyas, they've mapped out everything very clearly. If we're actually following that, then we will get fully purified and we'll be eligible to go back to Godhead. But are we doing it? That's the question. So those who are leaders in the Krishna consciousness movement, this is part of their duty, to see that the Varnashram system is introduced and that people are encouraged to participate in it. So I wouldn't say at the moment that Mayapur is following the Varnashram system, but that's offset by the fact that we do chant. We're out selling Prabhupada's books. I found that very enlivening the last, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but every morning now they read out how many books have been distributed for that day, all the different departments. So it's very encouraging to hear that, 1,000, 2,000 books every day are being distributed. Prabhupada said if you just get people to read his books, everything else will come automatically. So we have to try our best. We come together as a community, we support each other. There'll be problems, there always is. Most of us are not pure devotees, but we're trying. So it's as good as, in one sense. So that is something that will develop, I think, over the next few years, or the next 1 or 2 generations. People will gradually wake up to their spiritual life. So the Varnashram system is important, but to be frank, I haven't seen it practiced, maybe just to a very small degree, but in general it's not spread through our society, what to speak about, regular Kami society. So that's something we have to work on and try and, give some shape to.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for your nice class. How important it is to understand the global situation, what's happening with the war, what's Prabhupada's take on it, that we should get proper knowledge on the world affairs, because presently there seems to be divisions in our society, like somebody supporting Putin saying he's doing the right thing, somebody supporting Ukraine, and the devotees don't seem to have a proper understanding on the whole situation, and there are devotees taking up arms and going and fighting and also dying in the process because they are thinking they are doing the right thing, fighting for their country.
There's several means at our disposal, or there may be in the future. I was with Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj in Gita Nagari in 1976, and the three of us were just chatting in Prabhupada's room and talking about, the future of the ISKCON movement. And Prabhupada did at one point indicate that, we may have to take some very stern measures. Not now. We're a fly speck, on the ocean of material life on this planet. But in the future, if ISKCON or some similar manifestation of transcendental activity, if that grows, as we get stronger, we may find that we may find politicians and other wealthy persons that will provide backing, and we may be able to actually do something for changing the present course of human society. And we're not talking about just distributing prasadam. There are other things that you can distribute that are not very not very palatable, but it may happen. Prabhupada did indicate that they may get to a point where we can actually take over other countries and introduce them to Krishna consciousness. But it's not that regimen change that they talk about, regime change. That comes from, being strong. Part of the Varnashram system is the military kshatriyas. So Prabhupada did tell us that, the Bhagavad Gita, it's based on a war. All the principles that we need for human life are in the Gita, but the Gita is all about, conducting a huge war. Similarly with Lord Ram. he got Sita back, reunited with him, but through warfare. So warfare is not against the varnashram system. Yeah, it's just that we can't do it right now because we don't have the strength. But if we get the strength, or the devotees in the future, if they get sufficient strength, Prabhupada said, then we'll see what needs to be done. And he kind of, he said, well, there's a bomb, you chant Hare Krishna, no, finish. It sounds, a bit, it may come to that, because if you want to run human society properly, you have to have a very powerful political system. So the Kshatriyas were trained to be devotees and at the same time to fight. Yeah, that will always be there. So that's one way of doing things. Another way, Prabhupada said, is that we will conquer America or other countries by culture. So spiritual culture, how to live nicely, all the good qualities that saintly persons have. We can introduce people to prasadam, to chanting and dancing, to cultural activities, which will bring people at least into the mode of goodness. So that cultural development, that's also another important aspect that Prabhupada said will help us to change the world. So there are other activities also, but it's not just all one way or one particular avenue. In the varnashram system, just like you have 4 general divisions: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. But within those groupings, there are many multiple other groups, smaller, that come under that. So you've got 4 main branches, but then split into many other sub-branches, so that, let's say like the Kshatriyas, not everybody's a Mahārāti, not everybody's a chariot driver. There are many different aspects to a particular varna and ashram which have to be followed. So these things have to be developed. So let's see what happens.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhupada also said that a time will come when we will threaten people to chant Hare Krishna. If you don't chant Hare Krishna, boom, we'll shoot you down. I think he was joking like that, but also like we can propagate in this fashion.
Yeah. Any other questions? Janmashtami Prabhu. By the way, don't go running around telling people that if you don't chant Hare Krishna, you're going to drop a bomb on your head. That's not. It's only in extreme circumstances. Even when Krishna was on the planet himself, personally, he went to see the Kurus and tried to persuade them, just give the Pandavas just even enough land to put a needle in, and they wouldn't do it. So when all hope was gone for any kind of peaceful settlement, only then did Krishna authorize to begin the war. Otherwise, right until the very last second, he was trying to persuade the Kurus not to fight, work cooperatively with the Pandavas, and have a proper human situation. But they wouldn't do it. So there are, that's the last resort. We should try to do things on the more positive, well, it's all positive, but we should try to do things more according to, developing good faith and happiness rather than fighting. But it may come to fighting. Let's see. Or let's hope that we don't see. And what was that you were saying about? Oh, in 1974 there was some discussion about a possible third world war, and somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, well, if there is a Third World War, then will devotees get killed in the war? Prabhupada said, yes, of course. So what do? He said, when the bomb comes, we'll look up and we'll say, here comes Krishna. We're not going to live forever. He said, even if there's no war, you're still going to die. Nobody's going to live. But we want to get some profit from the human life that we've been given. So this is our chance. Do something in Krishna's favor and go back to Godhead and help so many others to go with us. Any other questions? Yeah, Jamastri, sorry.
Have you seen in your life as a devotee, have you seen a lot of progress towards the implementation of the Golden Age? I mean, that it's really starting to happen?
Have I seen?
In your life as a devotee, about almost 50 years now,
Yeah.
Have you seen much progress having been made in the establishment of the Golden Age? It's already started, but the full manifestation, where
Yeah.
we got Mahārāja Parīkṣit's kind of modality present.
I think the changes are coming. They are noticeable. When I was still in my late teens, let's say 1970, around that time, I had decided to become a vegetarian, and the people that I was working with, I was working in a steel factory, making iron and steel. It was like living in hell. But somehow or another, when I started to wake up a little bit about spiritual affairs, I started to feel that I should become a vegetarian. So I told my friends, I'm going to become a vegetarian. And they were, what? You crazy? Well, you some kind of rabbit food? In the West, they have no idea about, how to eat. Prabhupada said it many times, only India knows how to eat. Yeah, so there's so many wonderful preparations. You don't have to go anywhere near any, rotting flesh of some poor, unfortunate animals. But so nowadays, you've got people open. So at that time, people thought if you were vegetarian that you must be actually a little crazy. There was a woman called Dr. Barbara Moore in the 1960s in England. She was advocating vegetarianism, and they had her on the front page. She's eating grass. That was an so people actually thought you were crazy. Now, so many millions of people have become vegetarian. This vegan movement's become so big now. Even the ex-president of the United States is a vegan, Bill Clinton. So things are definitely changing. Of course, this is a material world. Things will change anyway. It's always changing. But we want it to change in the right direction. So, things are, I think turning for present towards a better state of living. I think a lot more people are aware now of spiritual life, the whole thing about yoga. I mean, for us it's not interesting, but you've got a prime minister who's managed to persuade the leaders of the world to declare one particular day in each year as Yoga Day. So when I was, again, a teenager, I didn't know the difference between yoga and yogurt. I had no idea. Now everybody does yoga. Of course, it's not to the proper standard, but it does help to clarify their consciousness a little bit. It's a bit more mode of goodness than it used to be. So things are going on. I think they'll continue, at least for now, to improve. But there will be a point, as I say, when if we get more influential, you don't change the government or the ruling class in any particular country by sweet words. Ultimately, if you want to change, the ruling party, mostly we've seen it ends up with a fight. That's the only way that you can change one civilization for another. You have to use force, because they're not just going to say, "Oh, I made billions of dollars by my misuse of government. Now I feel guilty. Here, you take it all." They're not going to surrender what they've got. It's going to have to be, a day of reckoning at some point. But again, as I say, we're not advocating that. Krishna was to the last minute advocating a peaceful solution, but the demons were just, uncooperative. So there are such people, and we'll have to deal with them at some point or another, but not yet. All right, it's getting late. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.